Around the World in 80 Days, Chapter 4. The world started moving faster. As soon as the train pulled out of the station, Passepartout realized something rather unpleasant. This was really happening. It was not a dream. It was not a joke. And it was definitely not some strange test for a new servant. The wheels rattled faster and faster along the tracks. London slowly faded from the view. The street lamps turned into blurry spots of lights. The rain stayed behind, and the whole world stretched out ahead of them. Across from him sat Phileas Fogg, as calm as ever, as perfectly composed as ever, and naturally keeping an eye on his watch. Passepartout tried to work out whether his master felt even the slightest bit nervous. But Mr. Fogg looked as though he were traveling to the next parts of the town rather than setting off on a journey around the world. Sir, Passepartout asked carefully, aren't you worried at all? Fogg looked up from his newspaper. What about? About the journey. We have already begun it, Fogg replied calmly. For him, that seemed to be the end of the discussion. He glanced at his suitcase. Then he suddenly sat up straight. The gas! Fogg slowly raised his eyes. Sorry, what was that? The gas in my room! I left it on! Passepartout grabbed his hat in horror. I left the house in such a hurry that I completely forgot to turn it off. For a moment he looked as if he were about to jump out of the train. Fogg calmly turned to another page of his newspaper. That is unfortunate. Unfortunate? It will be burning the entire time we are away. Fogg thought for a few seconds. Then pay the bill when you return. Passepartout stared at him in silence. Little by little he was getting tired of being surprised. The next few days blended into one long journey. Stations, connections, crowded platforms, suitcases, the sharp whistle of departing trains. Passepartout quickly discovered that traveling was nothing like the pictures on postcards. It was a constant race against time. Yet time seemed to work differently for Mr. Fogg. He checked his watch, looked at the tickets, studied the timetable, then checked his watch again. Sometimes Passepartout had the feeling that his master trusted time more than he trusted people. A few days later, they arrived at the port. The air smelled of salt, coal, seawater, and wet wood. A huge steamship towered above the crowd like a floating city. Sailors shouted orders. Seagulls circled overhead. Passengers hurried up the gangway. Passepartout stopped for a moment and simply stared. For the first time, he truly understood how enormous their journey was going to be. Are we sailing on that? He asked. Yes. Very far? Yes. And Mr. Fogg's answers rarely grew longer than a single word. Once they were on board, Passepartout walked to the edge of the deck. The shore was still close enough to see clearly, yet London already felt far away. The steamship gave a gentle shudder. A deep horn echoed across the water. Slowly, the shoreline began to drift away. Passepartout stood there for a long time, looking back at the houses, at the port, at the lights fading into the distance. Sir, he said quietly, there is no turning back now. Fogg glanced at his watch. There stopped being a way back 5 minutes ago. Passepartout smiled despite himself. Even saying goodbye to home was measured in minutes for his master. The wind was growing stronger, the sea was turning darker. And somewhere ahead lay Europe, new countries, and dozens of places Passepartout had never seen before. What he did not know was that very soon he would begin to miss even the gas lamp he had forgotten to turn off.